Hi, welcome. Today I would like to share with you a verse that Jesus said from John chapter 6, verse 35. Jesus said, I am the bread of life. We shall look at this verse and some of the design and fulfillment concept. So what does Jesus mean when he said that he is the bread of life? So we need to look at the Bible in its entirety. So first we need to look at the Old Testament. You know how the people of God, after they cross over the Red Sea, when Moses delivered them from slavery to freedom, in the wilderness, the people of God always have the manna to eat. Every day they had the manna. And God intentionally gave the people the manna because with God, that is the design and the fulfillment is Jesus Christ, the bread of life. Now, as a man going out to build his house, he made the design of the house. Then he built the house according to that design. And when the house is completed, it's become the fulfillment of that design. So again, for God, the manna was a design. The fulfillment is Jesus Christ, the bread of life. And now if we look at John chapter 6, at the beginning of the chapter, we have the miracle of the loaves. Jesus multiplied the loaves, feeding 5,000 people. And not just John's Gospel, but all four Gospels included this miracle because it's a very important miracle that all four Gospels must have. And because the writer of the gospel, they understand the way of God, the design and fulfillment. So this miracle, feeding 5,000, Jesus performed, is only a design. The fulfillment is Jesus multiplies bread to feed people spiritually, not for one generation, for all generation, from the moment of Jesus' resurrection to end of time, for all people. And if we look at that, we see that is like that what Jesus meant when he said, I am the bread of life. And now in the New Testament, from the book of Matthew chapter 12, here Jesus said, have you not read what David did when he was hungry, and those who were with him, how he entered the house of God and ate the showbread, which it was not lawful for him to eat, nor for those who were with him, but only for the priests. So for God, the bread, the showbread was already very special, and always was showbread in the temple, the house of God. Always then, because God in his infinite wisdom has again that showbread as a design. For the fulfillment time, the house of God must always hold the fulfillment bread, supernatural bread. And so if we see this is again another design and fulfillment concept contributing to the verse 35 in John chapter 6. I am the bread of life. And now we also look at the Passover, where Jesus was eating the Passover with his apostle. And then he took bread and he said, this is my body, take and eat. So Jesus is the bread of life, and the Passover where the people of God must celebrate eating the roast lamb. Now Jesus gave the meaning, the fulfillment for the Passover, because he is the Lamb of God. So eat him. He is the bread, yet he is the Lamb of God. He said, this is my body, take and eat. And the Lamb of God said that because it is the bread, is the flesh of the Lamb of God. And the chalice is the blood of the Lamb of God. And so this is another contributing factor to the fact that Jesus said, I am the bread of life. This bread that Jesus took and said and want us to do, he said, do this in remembrance of me, because Jesus wants us to eat supernatural bread, not just bread that is still bread. Because in the design, the showbread that already special. In the design, the manna was already special, you know, and so the fulfillment has to be way more, and it has to be supernaturally. How do you understand this? The one key things you have to understand about Jesus is that not that he is the Lamb of God, but also creation was created through him, for him, and in him, and he holds everything together. So let me share with you from John chapter 1 verse 3. All things were made through him, and without him was not anything made that was made. From Colossians chapter 1 verse 16. For in him all things were created, in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or principalities or authorities, all things were created through him and for him. He is before all things, and in him all things hold together. In Jesus, all things hold together. So what does that mean? It means Jesus Christ hold the creation together, and that creation is a fulfilled creation. From the moment of Jesus' resurrection to the end of time, the new people of God is the fulfilled creation. The people who has the Spirit of God dwelling in us, the people who are supernaturally alive, the people who have heavenly treasures. And that is why Jesus hold everything together. And that's why he said he is the bread of life, and we must eat the bread of life, like he said, eat it in remembrance of me at the Last Supper, because Jesus wants us to eat the bread that is supernaturally bread. And if you think about another contributing factor to the fact that he said, I am the bread of life, is from Luke chapter 24, the walk to Emmaus. You know, when the Jews people always break bread, it's very special to them that they break bread. But here, Jesus wanted to remind the apostle that he is the bread of life. So, when at table with them, Jesus took bread and blessed and broke it and gave it to them. And their eyes were opened, and they recognized him. And immediately he vanished out of their sight. So Jesus is the bread of life. So as they didn't recognize Jesus the whole time, but at the breaking of the bread, they recognized Jesus, because Jesus intentionally reminding them that he is the bread of life, and that's why they need to recognize him in the fulfillment time through the bread, because he is the bread. The bread is very significant for God. The bread is very important. And so even though Jesus just said one simple verse in John chapter 6:35, I am the bread of life. We must meditate on this. We must think of it. We must think of the whole Bible in its entirety, all the contributing factor to this verse, especially the design and fulfillment concept. Because again in John chapter 6, Jesus said, eat his flesh and drink his blood. Because he meant to eat him, he is the Lamb of God. He meant to eat him, he is the bread of life. And so all over the world now, from the moment of his resurrection until now, the Catholic Church has always been doing this, breaking bread and eat it in a supernaturally. So Jesus is holding everything together. When you're eating this bread, your supernatural body is being renewed. You're being refreshed and renewed spiritually. And that's why when in Colossians verse 17, he is before all things, and he in him all things hold together. So the fact that we must understand about Jesus, the bread of life, is that creation was created through him, for him, and in him. And that's why this bread is Jesus Christ, and this bread hold all things together. He is renewing everybody, all creation, fulfillment creation. And this fulfillment creation is us. We are Christian, Orthodox, Catholic, it is us. We are the people of God. So we must eat this bread in a supernaturally. And this bread is very good for us because Jesus wants us to eat. Jesus wants us to participate in the fulfillment Passover. Jesus wants us to break bread like the walk to Emmaus, to recognize him, that he is bread. And so to conclude, the bread is no longer bread, but is the fulfillment manna. And the bread, the showbread in the house of God, it's just a design. The fulfillment is Jesus Christ. He is the bread, and he is in every Catholic church. He is stored in a special house, and he is the fulfillment of that showbread. And also the miracle Jesus performed to feed 5,000, only a design. The fulfillment is Jesus Christ, the bread of life. He is supernatural bread. Thank you for joining me today.